Okay. So when you start up InDesign initially, when it does start up, depending on the version you've got and what you've got set up in your preferences, your screen may look completely different than mine. But the easiest thing to do into InDesign is to come up to the File menu, come down to New, and we are going to select Document. So this is one of the things that I think, again, if anybody has the answer to this, please, I'll defer to you. One of the interesting things about InDesign is that when you're actually going to make a book, you actually don't make a book, you make a document first. I think the book part of it is more designed in a way to build in things like table of contents and indexes and that sort of thing. But for all the work that I have ever done in InDesign, it all falls down to document. So that's what I want everybody to create. So up to the File menu, down to Document, and a dialog box should open up, giving you the option to specify the size of the document that you want to actually build in here. There's a couple of things in here that matter. Again, mine has changed because I've been working in InDesign long enough, but I think the default install of InDesign, the unit measure that you get is picas, not inches. Is that? I have no idea what you guys are looking at. Or you're all, does it say picas? Picas are actually a standard of a unit that exists in the printing industry. It doesn't translate exactly to this, but it's really close to a sixth of an inch, which means there's 6 picas to the inch. So you can actually specify in picas how big you want your document and all that kind of stuff to be. I would say that that's a little daunting, a little much for us to try to get into right now, because you find yourself just doing a bunch of math on the side to really figure out the size. So I'm going to strongly suggest everybody change their units to inches instead of picas. It will just make your life easier to do. There are, you'll notice over here, there should be some icons that actually exist over here. One of them should have an 8.5 by 11 on it. If it doesn't, you can build your own. I'm going to suggest, though, for us, I'll go ahead and do this. So we'll just do, I've got a pre-built one right here that is an 8.5 by 11. And you can see when you click on this 8.5 by 11 in inches that you get an orientation slider down here. What we are going to build, at least in this class right now, is a pamphlet that looks like this size right here. It's going to be a horizontal that's an 8.5 by 11. So if you look at the width of this, we definitely need the width to be 11 inches, and you need the height to be 8.5. Now you can click on these guys and you can simply type those values in. So I'm just hitting 11. If you hit your tab key, it will actually advance you to the next entry point. Yes?
It just opened it. Like if you, I hit tab and it opened it. Like the document.
It opened the document?
Yeah.
Tab or return?
Oh, return.
Yeah. So close it and just do it again. Just do another one. Okay. The next thing we need to do is orientation. So again, instead of doing something that would be vertical like this, like a conventional book might be, we are going to, again, do this horizontal tablet. So you just need to make sure that your settings here is 11 inches wide, 8.5 inches tall, that your units are inches, and that the orientation is horizontal. Or landscape is what they would call this as well. They call the other one portrait, but I don't think that's necessarily right. It is going to be 2 pages. We are going to have a front and a back to this. I'm going to show you how to set up a book after we do this pamphlet thing, but for what we're doing here in class tonight, this part right here, it's strictly going to be a front and a back of one single piece of paper. However, this is not asking you, the pages is not asking you the number of actual pieces of paper. It's actually asking you about faces. So we are going to have a 2-face. We're going to have, again, the front of this pamphlet and the back of it. So you would put in 2 for the number of pages. These are not going to be facing pages. When we talk about facing pages, we talk about something that would be like this in a conventional book, where you have page 1 here, or page 2 here, page 3 here, and then turn it, and then page 4 and 5, whatever. That's not what we're doing here again. It's going to be just this thing, one side of it, and flip in the other side. Is everybody good on that part? Okay, as we come down here, we are going to add you're going to change. You can either type in the values or you can use the little arrows to go up and down. We are going to put in 3 columns for this. So then the default for the column gutter, and if you want to see what's actually going on here, if you click the preview checkbox down at the bottom, you will see underneath it's actually building this thing for us. So you can see, for instance, if I change the number of columns right now, you can see I've got 3 columns in here. If I change this to 2 columns or change it to 4 columns, you see all 4 columns there. This column gutter, what they're referring to is the space that's going to be between these columns, because one of the issues that we deal with always when we're actually printing this stuff out is what they call the gutter. So I'm going to just fold this piece of paper to show you guys this right here. If you had a conventional book that we were doing, like a book, just a paperback that you were reading, whatever, what ends up happening is that at a certain point, they've got to bind these 2 pages together. And when they bind it together, they usually actually put glue down this and then bind it to a surface. You guys all, I mean, we've all experienced this, magazines. When you open this up, there's a part of the center of these that you never see because the glue is holding them together. Does that make sense? So it's a part that you actually lose. They refer to that as the gutter, and so that's what's going on here. Now, in our case, we're not going to fold this thing, but you do want to have distinct, discrete spacing between each of the columns so that it is obvious visually that they are not running together. Does that sort of make sense? All right, so that's what this column gutter is all about. This, what I think the default on yours is a 1.66. Is that true? Change it to just a 1.6, if you will, for me. Again, you can simply type those values in if you want to. As we start to go down, if margins is not visible to you, click on margins to get the drop down so that we can see those. We are also going to, I don't know what the default margins that you have are, but we are going to change those to 1.6 as well. So if you type any value into here, like I'm going to type in, well, I'll just type in 1.6 again. Once you type in 1.6, if you hit the tab key and go to the next one, if it does not put in 1.6, you need to change this little link right here. What this little link will do, if you see this version of it, that is supposed to indicate a broken link, which means that you can type in separate values for the top and the bottom and the left and the right. But in our case, we want them to be all the same. So if you click on this so that the links are joined, when you type in your first value, the other values should be populated for you. Does that make sense?
Do you want it to be 0.16 or 1.6?
1.6.
Okay.
Oh, wait, I take that back. 0.16. I just typed in the wrong thing. Thanks, Liz, because that's going to make for one really big border. Okay, 0.16 on this. As we can continue down, whatever, we have got to talk about bleed and slug in this. So if you click if you click right behind this image right now into the, well, we can't actually get this out of the way to see the preview. What I'll do, guys, is I'm going to give you the values to put in for bleed on this. We're not going to do any slugging this, and then I'll show you what they are once we get to actually our document. So for the bleed in this, I want you to put in a 0.125. That's 1/8 of an inch. It's a pretty much standard bleed. Again, you've got another little chain link that exists right here that once you put in that, again, 0.125, it should populate the left, right, bottom, and top as well. And then again, the slug on this, we are going to leave 0 all the way out. And then finally, again, if you've got this create box checked, it should be sitting here in the back, and simply hit on create. And you should have something that looks something like this. Does everybody have something that looks like this? Okay, so what we've got going on here, just to show you what's really happening on the page, the white area is the true page. That is the 8.5 by 11. The little line that's sort of magenta line, I'm going to zoom in a little bit on mine. By the way, the keyboard shortcuts for zooming that work in Photoshop also work here. So spacebar command to actually zoom in, spacebar command option to zoom out. But if you take a look at this, the white area that's in here is actually the live area. It's there. What live? That's a poor choice of words. Let me unphrase that. Take live away. Because live means something else in this as well. it is the true piece of paper that we are talking about. So it is going to be, once you print this thing out, it will be the true 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. The line that sits on the inside right here is actually the live line, what they would consider to be the live area inside of this. And the reason that this doesn't go all the way to the edges is that when you go to print something out, they need some wiggle room. If you imagine, let's just imagine a really high scale, high volume press production. As sheets of paper are flying through that press, there is motion side to side all over. It's not a perfect world. You don't get these perfect print and image being laid down on a piece of paper. Stuff can vary slightly. So the reason they give you this edge right here is this is a protection. And what it's saying is that if you keep your content inside this magenta, red magenta line, whatever, that no matter how much shift of paper you get in the press, it will actually never fall off. You will never have type that actually runs off the page that you miss, or image that runs off. Does that make sense? So that's what these lines are. The lines that are sitting here in the middle are the gutter lines that we actually established. These edges right here are the margin lines that we established. And then this orange line that sits here on the outside, that's what we call the bleed line. And what the bleed line is all about is that in order to have an image print full bleed, meaning that the image reaches the very ends of the piece of paper, the very edges of the piece of paper, you actually have to overprint the image. You have to print it larger than the final piece of paper is going to be, because what happens in all of these, certainly a big press operation, is that they're not printing 8.5 by 11 pieces of paper. They take 14 of these, I think. Don't quote me on this. How many people in here really know press specs? I think it's 14. 14 of these end up being on a huge press sheet. So you'll end up with 14 pages on a huge press sheet, and then those are all cut and trimmed down. And so the trick to it is you want all of your images to print past this so that when they do trim them down, you have an image that goes all the way to the edge. Because otherwise, there's no way, if you strictly take it to the edge, that the trimming process will be so perfect that you won't get these little pencil thin lines of white paper that exists behind it. Does that sort of make sense to everybody? And then finally, the slug, the part that we didn't put in, there is room for an image on a press sheet, which is what they would call this, to actually put in things like registration marks or cropping marks or center marks or all those sort of things. They are non-printing characters. They're actually characters, and sometimes actually in slugs you can also put notes to the printer. They're information that the printer can use to help actually trim an image or trim pages, to do all that kind of stuff, whatever, but they would never appear in your image. They would never show up in the final product. That actually happens beyond the bleed edge. So if we had added slug, you would actually see another line that's running out here on the exterior where all of that information can go. Does that sort of make sense? Well, we'll look at that in Photoshop at a different time in a different place. Okay, so this is the beginning of our image part right here that we're going to sort of start to work on. So let me find where I am in the notes right here. We've gone through that part. The next thing I need to make sure everybody has is that your rulers are actually visible. To make sure that they are visible, you need to come up to the View menu and come down to Show Rulers. Now, in my case, mine says Hide Rulers because mine are already showing, but I want to actually have the ruler part on this so everybody's got that part showing. So the first thing that we're going to actually do is to give ourselves an aid to do some layout on this page, and that is we're going to work with a guideline. Now, we've done this, I think, in this class in Photoshop. We've pulled down guidelines. We're going to do the same thing here. The trick to it is you come up to the ruler itself. That's why these need to be visible. And we're going to click and start to drag down. And as you start to click and drag down, you will see that you get a little readout. There's a number on here. And what that number is, you'll see it's a Y with a colon and then an inch marker following it. What it's indicating is how far down on the page we're actually coming. I need you to bring this marker down to 3.25 inches. Sometimes it gets really hard to hit these markers exactly right. You'll get frustrated with it. If you add the shift key to this, it will actually then snap these in increments of 1/8 of an inch or 0.125 of an inch. So again, it'll just help you get down. So you'll go from 3 inches to 3.125 and then to 3.25. Let go of your mouse before you let go of the shift key, and this now is a guideline that's been dropped right down at that 3.25 inch mark. Everybody good on this? All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we are actually going to create some frames to actually load some imagery in here. So to do that, if you look over here, really quickly, we're going to go through a couple of things that are on the toolbar over here. The one thing at the very top is the selection tool. This is sort of pretty much after you do anything in InDesign, we usually come back to this tool because this tool is what lets you move things around and refine things and change things and all that kind of stuff. So it's going to be a tool that we pick an awful lot in here. The next one that matters to us at this stage of the game right now is the type tool. It's the one that's just the T key right here. The next thing down that matters to us in this regard is going to be the line tool. That'll be another one we deal with tonight. And then finally, the one that we're going to start with right now is the rectangular frame tool. So I want you to watch my image right now and see what I do on this part first. Oh, we need to set up another thing here really quickly first. And it's going to be, again, up in the View menu. Come up to the View menu, come down to Grids and Guides. And you need to make sure that Snap to Guides is actually selected. By default, it should be, but if somebody has done something on these machines in the interim, this may not be on here. What this simply will do is it will make these frames that we're going to try to drag out easier to actually drag out. It'll just make them easier to position, and I'll show you what that means next. So I'm going to select the frame, and just watch my screen here really quickly, and I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. What I want to do is three frames that go across, three separate frames that go across this top area right here. So I'm going to start, again, these are going to be images. Well, not all of them are going to be images. Some of them might be images, but nonetheless, I'm going to start at the top corner right here of my bleed, not the top corner of my image and not the live area of my image, but the top corner of my bleed. And I'm going to click and I'm going to drag out. And you'll see that as I start to get into the center of that column gutter, that it all of a sudden snaps over. It drops over, and then it's holding itself sort of in that middle area of the gutter. And then as I near the guideline down at the bottom, it should snap to that guy as well. And then I let go. And this is my first frame. So then I'm going to do two more just like it, and I need everybody to do the same thing. I'm going to click and do one here in the middle. And then I'm going to do finally one over here on the very edge. And again, the one on the edge goes all the way out to the bleed line. So, guys, I'm just going to continue going on here and stop. I'm not going to continue to stop and ask you, are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay? Is this working for everybody? If something does not work for me, will you guys just stop and just say, Versert, nope, not quite yet. I don't have it yet. Or no, this isn't working for me. Or you guys get where this whole thing is going, right? Okay. So for my next thing down, I am going to do... We're going to do another frame that actually starts here in the middle of our, so on the guideline here, but not the frame that's all the way over, but I'm going to start in the middle right here, and I'm going to take that back. I'm going to do it here. I'm going to drag that frame out there like that, and then I'm going to do one more frame, and I'm actually going to overlap this one frame that I'm on right here. So I'm going to click and drag out another frame right here and overlap this guy right here. And you'll see when you actually do that, I take that back, I'm going to undo that. I'm going to do it from the bottom and work my way up. Yeah, we're better about this guy right here. Okay, so I've got these 5 frames that are actually sitting out of my image, and I think, although hang on one second, guys, really quick, I need to check to make sure that I've got these frames out right for you guys, because without that, I'm going to screw this whole thing up. So give me 1 second. Yeah, I'm missing one frame, so hang on. Where did you go? Okay, we need one last frame. So again, grab the frame tool.
How high, like how tall do you want that small frame to be?
It doesn't matter. About that tall.
Okay.
And then one last frame that's going to be both of these over here to the side. So the entire, again, image over here. Go all the way to your bleed line. And that's going to be, so I've got 3 at the top. I've got one big one over here that covers 2 of these columns. Then I've got one that's sort of in the top area right here, and then one that's a little bit lower down there, and we should be good to go on this guy. All right. Make sure. Yeah, and we're going to go ahead and place some images in these frames right now. So to do that, you come up to the File menu, and you come down to Place. And then we need to navigate to the assets that you downloaded from our website. So it should have come down as a zip disk. If you double clicked on that zip disk, it should open up and you should see, you should basically have these assets that are actually going on here. Does everybody have this part? Okay, I'm going to click on chair number 1, JPEG number 1. That's going to be the first thing that we actually place in the sky. And I'm going to click on open. And in my case, you'll see that it actually opened up in that big, it was the last square that I actually had going. And the reason it opened up in that was because I still had that frame active. That's not where I want to put this guy. So I'm going to hit Command Z to deselect. And you'll now notice that you've actually got this image. It's floating. It's a chair that's actually floating around on your cursor. If you come over to this frame right here, so it's going to be this frame that's sort of like the smaller of the ones that we just picked right here, and you click once, it'll actually throw this entire image into that frame. It's much bigger than I actually want it to be in this frame. So has everybody got their image, this big chair in this frame right here? We good on that? So then to fix this, you need to come up to the Object menu, come down to Fitting. Let it rip, Parker. Just go for it. Yeah, you're just Command Z.
Oh, I won't let you fit. Are you clicked on that one? Nope, go to the top.
Yeah, it's still there.
Toolbar, top one. Click on that. No. Click on
Yeah, you're right where it needs to be.
Would you like a Swedish?
Okay. So, guys, we need to. Okay. So we need to clear this image is much larger than the space that we've got into this, so we need to fix that. Up to the Object menu, down to Fitting, and you want to put in here, fill the frame proportionately. And you will actually get the chair that actually looks like this part. Now, in my case, I've still got the frame part that I've got in here is actually too big because I still want this frame down at the bottom to be able to work with. So to fix that, you can come up and click on the little selection icon that's sitting up at the top. You can come down here to the bottom and you can still see that the frame has got its control handles that's outlined, and I can click on the bottom and I can crank this guy up and let go. That actually has changed my frame to the way I want it. To move the image inside that, again, you still need this cursor actually selected. Hover over your image and you get this little donut that's in the middle. If you click on that little donut and press to move up, your image will actually move up again. I still don't think that this is necessarily fit in there proportionately, so I'm going to reset that one more time. Up to Fitting, fill frame proportionately. And that's actually the way this guy should actually look. Oh, that frame is not snapped to. Okay, so that's our first image right here. Okay, So that's how you can place a single image. You can place more than one image though at one time. So let me just make sure I'm getting the right guys in here. No, we're gonna go ahead and do this one at a time. So again, up to the File menu again, down to Place again. We're gonna grab the second chair image right here, open, and I'm going to put that one in this space right here. So I'm going to click on this frame right here, and that did not grab my image, so I'm going to again go back to place, select chair number 2, click on open. That now has put it into that frame for me. Again, I need to size it so that the image fits the space, the frame proportionately. So up to the object menu, down to fitting, and across to fill frame proportionately. And you've actually got the image that's sort of sitting in here right now.
How
And
do
it,
you get the other image out of?
oh, that actually put that image in there. All right, so this is interesting. What happened was it did the first placement, but I still had this frame active. So again, Command Z, your best friend. Command Z again, gets rid of that. Do not have this guy selected right here. So again, to get rid of that, you can simply, if you want to, again, click on the move, the selection tool part right here. This part is still selected right here. I'm going to come over and select this frame now, and then do my place again.
I have a shortcut for fitting stuff too. If you just right click, it'll bring up the box to like do the fittings. You don't have to.
So we'll try right clicking. So Control, if you don't have a right mouse, in the typical keyboard like I've got, hold down the Control key, click, and you get a drop down menu right here. And then in fitting, you would pick fill frame proportionately, and it'll actually drop it in here. So this is basically the start of both of our guys right here. I still feel like this guy is off.
Is there supposed to be space in between them?
Well, it doesn't matter because it's actually in the gutter, but no, there isn't supposed to be. The frame should have snapped too, but it does not look like this guy actually did snap to that. So, and I'm clicking to actually move this frame over, but it's sitting on there. Again, this is not filling it proportionately. So we'll try one more time. Close enough. Okay, because this is sitting in my gutter. Anyway, I'm going to zoom back out. So basically, this is how we position images in, it's one way to position images on the layout part that we're actually going to do right here. So again, you can move your images around, you can rescale them as far as that part goes. So if you want to, for instance, adjust how this image is here, you need to sort of know what fit proportionately does. So again, if you click on the cursor that's at the top, you come down here and you actually click on this, on the little donut part, and you start to move this around. Can you see that yellow orange outline that's actually sitting up around this? And there's another one coming down from the bottom. What you can see in this that's actually happened is that it's this image, what it's done, it's not reshaping the image. What it's doing is it's actually scaling the image so that the image is either its widest part fits exactly into the frame or its tallest part. Whichever of those measurements will allow the entire frame to be filled is the one it goes to. But that means inevitably that there is going to be on the other dimensions something cropped out unless your image happens to be exactly the ratio of the frame that you've put it in. So you can see when I select this guy and come over here to actually move it, that I can actually bring my image slightly up and change it, or slightly down to change it, whatever, without going outside of my frame. Does that sort of make sense? Okay, so then we are going to place the next frames. So we are now going to actually click on the upper right frame, this guy right here. And we're not going to put an image in this guy. We're actually going to fill this with a color. So to actually do the fill color in this, It's these little icons that sit up here at the top. It's this one. It's sort of like next to this point guy right here. If you click on this next one, you'll get a flyout menu with a series of options that you can actually fill this with. I want you to go ahead and click on black to actually say that. Then again, to accept that, simply click outside of this. Now, I've made my whole image a little bit smaller so that I've got areas that are sitting on both sides of mine right now. You can see that this frame is still selected and it is still active, and I don't really want that to actually be the case. I want to move on to something else. So there's different people have different styles about how they work with this stuff. I'm just going to show you how I do it. For me, instead of making mistakes and trying to fix them, it's always easier to just kind of start from scratch. So if you grab the cursor that's at the top and you simply click outside in this dead area that's over here, that commits that fill of black color to this guy right here, and we don't need to worry about that part anymore. So it's now, we can actually move on to the next part. So for the next part that I'm actually going to work on, I actually want to fill the frame that's next to it with a color, and I also want to fill this one down here in the lower part with the exact same color. So to do that, you can do it in one sort of fell swoop. If you click on the middle frame right here, you can see that the handles around it are making it active. If you hold down the shift key and then click on the one that's down at the bottom, it's actually making my whole big frame active right here, which is fucking me. So that's not true. It's actually, it is an indication that this whole area has been selected. But the truth of the matter is it's really not. It's just treating the way these edges are actually, the points are actually. So it's not showing me two discrete separate ones, but that indeed is what is happened here. So what I really have is this is selected and this selected. So we need to do a custom color for this. I'm not going to do this fill up here again. To do the custom color, I need to get to my eyedropper tool, and I have no idea. It's right down here. If you click on this eyedropper tool and get on this drop-down menu, you will actually see that there's a series of tools in here. The tool that we really want is the second one down, the eyedropper tool. If you click on that eyedropper tool and come over, I'm just going to sample a color of this green right here. If you click on this sample of green right here, you will see that it actually loads that into that little swatch that's sitting up at the top. It did not fill this entire thing with green. It did just fill those two areas with green. And it was the color that we actually sampled. I'm going to hit Command Z to undo that really quickly again, and it's actually not going to show this to me again. So I'm going to click over here. What you need to notice is there's a behavior with this color, with the little eyedropper tool. With the eyedropper tool is not loaded, it actually points at sort of like a 1 o'clock to 7 o'clock angle. So look at my eyedropper, you can see that's what it is right now. When you actually click and load it, it shifts exactly the opposite way, and it's supposed to look like there's ink inside that little eyedropper. That is an indication that this color has been loaded and it's going to continue to work with that color. While we're on this, if you come over to your eyedropper menu again and you click on a flyout menu and you come out, actually let's do this instead. Hit Command Z to actually go back in time to get rid of that. I just want to show you what this other eyedropper tool actually do. If you click on this eyedropper tool and you come down to Color Theme tool, you will see that it actually gives you this flyout menu, and this flyout menu will show up in different places. And what the flyout menu is actually doing is it's sampling the colors that already exist in your image, and it's suggesting to you, oh, would you simply like to use one of these colors?
How did you get that flyout menu?
Again, it's this color sampler. So click on your eyedropper tool again, and instead of eyedropper tool, the second one in the middle, you want to pick the top one, the color theme tool. And when you click on that and let go, this thing should fly out somewhere in your image. Then,
Thank you.
okay. However, it's not just these colors. If you click on this, you will get a drop-down menu here that will allow you to change this palette. So right now, I don't know what colorful means to them. That seems ridiculous to me. But nonetheless, if you go to bright, it will actually essentially brighten up your colors, although it doesn't look like my colors got brighter. If you click on dark, it'll actually weigh itself more to the darker palette that's actually in there. You can go to deeper colors. You can go to muted colors. I just wanted you to know that this thing exists. In our case, we don't want this thing, to be honest with you. I want to sample my own color. So again, I'm going to go back over here to the eyedropper tool, and then I'm going to click about the middle of the chair, and it actually is going to put that color in there. If you click on this drop-down menu now that's actually right next to the color swatch, you'll actually see that it exists up here. If you click and you drop down here, you can add this as a tint that will actually be saved down here. So I think if you click on new swatch right here, it should add the color down at the bottom. You can see in our case it's giving me RGB readouts for this color. Again, if we wanted those to change, I have no idea, I'm going to guess, but you click on this little color icon right here to change it from RGB to CMYK, but that's not how that works, so never mind. Who in this class knows how to do that part to change this to a CMYK readout? Double click on the little guy and then change in the drop down menu from color type from color mode to RGB. I mean to CMYK. Say what? Scroll up. Oh, got it. This whole part right here, up to CMYK. And it's okay. This becomes important when you're trying to actually match spot color, that kind of stuff. So at any rate, just to know that part exists. All right, we got through that part. So we need to head down to page number 2 right now. So again, for me, I typically always go back to the selection tool to click on it. I don't like leaving live frames actually selected, because if we go down and we decide we want to place an image and something down on the second part, it's actually going to try to place it in this frame right here because it's still active. Then simply click on the outside of my frame that actually gets rid of that part. Then I'm going to scroll down to, or just push down to go down to my part to get down to my second, the reverse, the second page of this, which is going to be the back side of the first one. As long as we're here, you guys should notice that there is a pages flyout menu that exists all the way to the right side. If you click on that, it will actually show you the layout that we're working on right now. You can see up here that we've got version, what they're calling page A, with a 1 underneath it. That is our first page. If you want to move to the second page here, that's a way to navigate. Again, in our example right now, it doesn't really matter because we're on such a, it's just 2 pages here. But when you get into a whole series of multiple pages, a big sort of like layout, whatever, this is a much better way to navigate. To get that menu to collapse again, to get rid of it, it's the little double-headed arrows that are right here. The guy flies back and it's closed again. Okay, so we're at move at page 2 right now. So we are actually going to build another frame that's right down here. So I need you to click on the frame tool again. And then I want you to come over to the last of it, to the column that's on the far right-hand side on this. Take it back. We're going to do on this side over here, the lower left side right here. And again, we're going to start at the bleed line right here. So I'm looking at something that's about 1/3 of a page, and I'm going to simply click and drag out here. And again, I want this to snap to my bleed lines and also to the line that's actually sitting right here in the middle. And you'll let go, and you've actually got an active frame that's sitting here right now. I need to duplicate this. So to duplicate this, you want to select the cursor tool again, not the frame tool. You've still got this frame is still active because you can see the little handles around it. If you hold down the Option key, you can click and drag, and it will actually make an identical frame to that. If you let go, it'll actually drop it in place. Although that actually gave me my bleed line as well, which I don't want. So Command Z to undo that. Command Z to undo the first frame that I actually dropped down. We're going to redo it without doing the bleed line. So again, I'm going to grab the frame tool, and this time I'm actually going to start in my live area line. So it's going to be this line right here, and I'm going to click and drag out, and I'm not going to go into the gutter. I'm simply going to leave it on the margin lines right here. So take a look up at my screen to see if you, to make sure that you know what I'm talking about. So that's sort of the live lines that are in there. Again, then I'm going to duplicate these. I'm going to click on the selection tool, hold down the Option key, click and drag over one to make a second frame that's identical to the first one, and then do the same thing one last time. So I should have 3 frames that are actually going across. They're not moving out into my bleed area, and they're respecting the gutter and the live area that's going around my image. Is everybody good on this part? Okay, so again, I'm going to click away from this so that I don't have this frame actually selected, and I'm going to go, we're going to place images in this. I'm going to come up to the File menu, come down to Place. We're going to navigate again to our Assets page. I'm going to click on chair number 3. I'm going to hold down the Shift key and click on chair 4, and also I'm going to click on chair 5 right here. All 3 of those guys are the ones that I'm actually going to pick on here, and then I'm going to click on Open for that. You will notice now that you've actually got a cursor that's got a little icon on it. It's the first one that's in the order that we're picking, but there's also, if you see, there's a number in there. It's this number right here. That's an indication that you actually have 3 images that are loaded in your cursor right now. So if you come over and hover over your first frame and click, it will actually add the first image into that frame, and you'll now see that that number count has gone down to 2, and you've got your second image now. We're going to click in the second one here to drop down my second image right there, and then finally the third one as well. We're going to click on this and drop this down to give us our third one right here. Although, why do I feel like that's also in the wrong place? Don't know why. Okay. So again, we need to scale these so that they actually fit the frame proportionately. So you can either do what Bridget does by holding down the Control key or your right mouse, clicking to get the drop-down menu and do Fitting here and come to Fill Frame Proportionately. Or you can click on the frame again and come up to the Object menu and come down to Fitting, Fill Frame Proportionately, and then finally do the same thing for the last guy, up to the Fitting and Fill Frame Proportionately. And you should have your 3 images that are running along the bottom like this. Okay. Sorry guys, I'm simply trying to follow this design so it's the same if you guys actually do this exercise again. Okay. So finally, one last frame. If you grab the frame tool again, and this time I'm going to do the top basically quarter of, so it's the column, again, I'm on page 2, the column that's all the way to the right. I am going to also, I'm not going to do full bleed on this, I'm going to bring this down between the gutter margin and the live area of my page. I'm going to click and come down to something that looks about, roughly about a quarter of a page, something like that. That's going to be this frame part right here. So no bleed or gutter in this. So again, I am going to click on the selection tool to click outside of this to not activate that, even though we're going to fill this right now, which may save one step. I just, habits, they die hard. Up to the File menu, down to Place. And again, in our assets, we are going to actually pick this schematic AI. So this schematic AI stands for, it's an Adobe Illustrator. That's what this tag on the end of it is. It's a file that was created in Adobe Illustrator that we can actually use in our layout right here. I'm going to go ahead and say open this to go ahead and open it up. You'll see that again, it sits on your cursor. I'm going to come over to this box and I'm going to click to actually drop this guy out. Now you can see that this, or you'll know once we get this thing finished, that this image, that the illustration is much bigger than the frame is. In this case, we want the entire illustration to be inside this frame. So unlike this other image right here, so if I come down here again and I click on this image right here and move this guy around, you can actually see that there is image content that exists beyond this. It exists on the sides. That's not the case with this. I want this entire thing to be contained in the frame, not a proportionate, but the entire frame. So to fix this, you come up to Object, down to Fitting, and instead of Fill Frame Proportionately, you put Fit Content Proportionately. And when you do that, if we'd actually had this one selected, you'll see that it actually puts the entire content of the image in proportionately. So the entire illustration is sitting in here now, which in the case of an illustration like this becomes more important to us. At this stage of the game, things are looking pretty hunky-dory. You need to save your document. So up to the File menu, come down to Save As, and I'm just going to call this Brochure. And I'm going to put this on my desktop just because I've got one someplace else. Okay, so now we actually need to deal with text on this guy to start to build in some text. So there's three ways that you can actually create text in this. We are going to look at all three of these. The first one is you can create text frames. That's what this little box guy does right here. This is actually to select and to build a text frame. You can also place text by using the same trick that we use to do images by coming up to the File menu and coming down to Place. And then finally, you can actually just do a copy and paste directly into this document. We'll see what all of this stuff ultimately looks like. So I'm going to scroll back up to page 1. We're going to start up here at the top in page 1. So we are going to actually do text box right up here. It's going to be in this, I'm going to do it on this black box right here, but you don't actually have to start text where it's ultimately going to be placed. So with the text tool selected, you can actually, if you guys, I've zoomed out enough that I've actually got space on the side of my document right here. You guys have some dead space on the side right there. You can simply click and drag out a text box. So I'm going to click and drag something out that looks to be like about the size of a postage stamp. It's going to be smaller than this black area, which is ultimately where I'm going to actually put this guy, but that's sort of what I've actually got going here. So I've clicked and I've dragged this guy out, and then we are going to type directly into this box. You'll see you've got a blinking cursor that's actually sitting in here, and the text that we are going to type in, this is not my text. I told you guys already, I'm not a text guy. So I'm just following this tutorial. All right. So what we're going to type in here is living well is the best revenge. And with this, living well is the best revenge. I'm actually then going to, again, click on this, my pointer guy here to reposition this. And I'm going to bring it over here and I'm going to drop it in this box right here in the black box. Now, the problem that I've got with this thing in the black box is that it's black type that's sitting in on a black box. So I need to change that part of it. To change that part of it, let me make sure that this is right. Yeah. I am going to double click inside this text box. It gives me the blinking cursor again, and it will change my cursor, my actual pointer guy, to the text tool again. You want to click and drag across that text that we just created in here, and then we are going to change the text to white. So to do white, you come up, it's this text character. Again, we're up in the options panel at the very top. It's the thing that looks like a little T right here. If you click on the flyout menu right here, you will get this flyout, and in this flyout, you will see that you actually don't have white in here. It doesn't really exist. What you've got in here is paper, but that's not white. In our case, if you were to print this on a white piece of paper, it would be white, because what this really does, when we click on paper, what it really does is it says you don't want any ink to be dropped in this area that we're talking about right now. So what shows through is white. But you need to remember that in printing, and when we print in photographically, or when you print on a press check or any of that kind of stuff, unless you get to a really specialty printer place, there is no such thing as white ink. White ink does exist as a specialty, but more often than not, what white ends up being in an image is where there is no content and the piece of paper is actually showing through. And that's what we're going to leverage right here. However, if you were to print this thing on this legal pad right here that is yellow, this yellow would show through in this text area. So the text that we would be picking right now would not be white. It would be whatever the color of the stock it is you're printing on. So if you print on pink stock, your text will be pink when you pick this paper. Does that make sense, everybody? So I just want everybody to realize that even though we're going to pick this guy and say okay to that, that we have now got what appears to be white text here, but the truth of the matter is what it's really doing is it's assuming that the piece of paper that we're going to be working on is white and that it's going to actually show through. So, also, I'm going to select across this one more time just to point out a couple of other things. With this text tool selected, there's a series of justification boxes that exist right here. In this box, I want you to, what we're going to end up with is left justified. And what that indicates right here, I'm actually going to make my text box smaller so that this text actually wraps to a different line so that you can see what justification actually is. To do that, I'm going to click on my my selection tool, the black tool right here. I'm going to come down here to the corner of my text box and I'm going to click and I'm simply going to make it more narrow so that the text has to drop down to a second line. So I've got living well is the best and then revenge is actually happening on the bottom part underneath that. Again, if you double click in this box, you will get the little text control cursor. If you drag across this, it'll highlight it again and you can see what left justified means is that all of the text lining up is lining up on a line along the left-hand side right here. If you click on the middle justification, the one that's in the middle, you will see that your text moves to the center of your text box. And then again, you can see the second line now is centered just the same way the first one is. If you go to the next box over, the next will actually be a right justified. That's actually what's happening there. I'm going to skip these two right here for just a minute and go to the ones that are down underneath. The next one that's down underneath is also a left justified, but what it is doing is it's saying we are going to expand this text so that it perfectly fits the text box that you've got. So you can see what's happened in my case. Yours will be slightly different depending on the size of your text box, that it's actually, in order to try to get it to start on the left-hand side and actually reach the right-hand side as well, that it's actually put a hyphen in the word revenge and actually then drop this part down, because what you're saying is you want this column, you want your whole text blocks to touch both edges. It's also doing different spacing that exists between these letters. So sometimes in between the word like this L and this IS, you maybe will have more spaces than you've got anywhere else. It's trying to spread everything out to fit that way. The same thing happens if you click to the one that's in the middle, and then finally the one that's on the left-hand side. You can see what a good job it does of that whole part. It's trying to then fit the text to the text box. But in our case, we're going to stick with the left justified, the one that's up at the very top, and we should be good to go here. If you want to get out of your text box and not do anything, again, you can actually click on this cursor up here, or you can simply hit the escape key. The escape key will go ahead and commit the changes that you've made to the text, or you again can select the cursor that's up here and then simply click on the outside, and we've actually got our first part that's in here as well right now. We are going to do another text box that's down here at the bottom. In the green space that's down here at the bottom. So again, I'm going to select the text type part right here. I'm going to click and drag out another text box right here. I've got a blinking cursor in this guy as well, which I'm going to keep. And I'm going to type in the word Carson, C-A-R-S-O-N. And that part. Right, and then I'm simply going to hit the escape key to go ahead and submit that. Oh, I take that back. I want this to be changed. Come back into the text box, double click again, drag across Carson. We are going to justify this to the right instead. And then again, hit the escape key to jump out of that part. Sorry guys, got to keep referring back to the one that I've built here before. That part's right. Okay, got it. So we're going to do one more text box. I'm going to come up, and it's the big green area that's sitting up here at the top, sort of in the middle. This is where I'm going to put my last text box here. So again, select the type key, whatever. And the text box that I want you to put here, you can actually make it relatively good size, but don't take up more than about 2/3 of this image. I'm going to leave some space that's actually on the side over here. Then you need to go to the Finder. You need to find your assets. And inside those assets, there should be a document, a Word document called brochure text.doc. If you can double click on that, it's a Word document. This thing will actually open up in Word. And as you scroll down to the bottom part of this, sort of middle bottom part, whatever, you see where it says think beyond the bum. I want you to click there and drag to the end of those couple of paragraphs that are right there. Although, wait a second, that is not what I want to put in here. Oh, I take that back. It will. So never mind. Okay, copy this. Easiest way to copy this, Command keys are Command C will copy it. If you can't remember that, up to the Edit menu to copy. Come back into InDesign. Now we've actually got a text box that's actively blinking over here. I was ahead of myself, so I don't want to actually fill this text box with that text. So again, I'm going to select the cursor to actually get out of this, and then select an area that's next to this so that I don't have an active text box selected. And then I'm simply going to hit Command V to paste. And you will see that it actually drops that text into its own new text box that we can now move. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit, and what I want you to do is put this text over in this area that's in the white sort of screen area that's over in here. So we're simply going to bring it over in here. So did that work for everybody? We good on that? So then I'm going to select the text box that we did make in the green, and we are going to actually put our text. I take that back. Just kill that text box altogether. We'll do this another way as well. Okay, so back into the Word document really quickly. We're going to select this last part that's down here. I think they're ready to transform, or we do it. Yeah, it's this whole part right here. So it's underneath the title that says back. Click on the ready to transform along with the Carson's office part right here. So Command C to copy that, or up to the edit menu to do the copy. Come back into, again, your working document right here. Simply hit Command V to paste it. It will drop the text down, and then we can actually shift this and bring it up into the green space area right here. Now in the green space area here, I'm going to actually make this text box a little bit bigger. So I'm going to click and drag it down slightly so that it comes a little bit more down to the bottom, and make it just a little bit wider right here. With this box actually active and selected, we can also do columns with inside text boxes. So to do that, we're going to put this in there in the middle frame. Make it going to the, okay, so in this case, we're going to come up to Object, down to Text Frame Options, I think. And then in Text Frame Options, when this thing opens up, you can actually change the number of columns in this from 1 to 2. It will pick up the gutter width. Actually, this is a default that's in that is part of InDesign, and I'm going to go ahead and say simply OK to that. And when you do that, you'll actually see that you do get 2 columns of text right here. I'm going to click and make this just a slight bit wider as far as that part goes, and we will fix other parts of this in just a little bit. So I've now got 2 columns of text that are sitting inside this text box right here. So then again, I'm going to click on my selection tool to click out of this so it's not active anymore. I'm going to go back down to my page number 2 right now. So in page number 2, I am going to use the text tool again. And in this time, though, I am going to click and drag out across all 3 of my columns right here. So I'm starting in the area, again, sitting right on my margin right here, kind of about in the middle, 1/3 down on my screen. I'm going to click and drag and come all the way out to the other part over here, and I'm going to let go. This is actually now put a text box that's going to span all 3 of these columns. So then I'm actually going to I'm also going to then build this in to have all 3 columns exist. So again, I'm going to go up to my object menu, coming down to text frame options. It'll open up, and I'm actually going to make this 3 columns so that I've got text sitting in all 3 of those columns, and I'm going to go OK to that. And so then we need to copy back in the Word document, we need to copy that space, the really big part of the text right here. So it's going to be the inside spread part right here. So it starts with what's the best seat in your house and drag across till you get down to the end of everywhere. Again, Command C will copy that. Then back to InDesign. In InDesign right now, you should still have a cursor blinking in there. So now you can simply hit Command V to paste this, and you'll see that it actually drops your text into all 3 of the columns. Now we're going to get into formatting this guy in just a second, but is everybody at least this far? Are we good on this? So anyway, at this stage of the game, up to the File menu and come down to Save to actually save your work in progress again. So then we actually need to do some work on the type that's actually in here. So I'm going to scroll back up to the top part right here. The first thing that I want to actually do in this is I am actually going to add some fonts to this that I maybe don't have. Now in this computer I've actually already added them. In your all's computer you probably won't have them. But if you come up to your font menu right here, the font menu is this thing that's listed up at the top. By default, it usually goes to Minion Pro. Is that what you guys have? Okay. If you click on this drop-down menu, you will actually see, you should have a list of fonts. But what you also need to see here actually is this dialog box right here, Add Fonts from Typekit. When Adobe actually went to creative licensing, they opened up their font collection pretty much, depending on the package that you own, they opened it up in a huge way. So how many people, well, I'm not going to ask you that. If you happen to be on the photo only license with Adobe Photoshop, so you would have Photoshop, you've got Lightroom, and that's it, right? If you have that, you have access to a limited number of fonts that they have in the Typekit. Typekit is Adobe's Foundry. It's where they have all of the fonts that they actually own and they manage. So you don't have the same number that you get if you actually have one of the design packages or one of the bigger packages, which is what we have here. So we are actually going to click on Add Fonts from Typekit. When you do that, it'll actually leave InDesign, it will go to a browser, and it will actually load the Font Foundry search part for Adobe. This is where they have all of their fonts.
And it doesn't open. Like, when I click it, it doesn't open a web link.
Do you have a browser open?
I just opened one to like, oh, should I close it?
Yeah, close it. Try one more time. I don't know why you're, there you go.
Weird.
Yeah.
Impatient, but it's fine.
Bridget, I'm thinking you and me, when we finish this class, when it's all over, we're going to take this computer outdoors, get really drunk, and like shoot it with guns, set it on fire, run over it with a car. You all are welcome to join us because you have all suffered through an inordinate amount of time wasted on this one fucking computer continually. At any rate,
I've never been drunk, so that was my first time.
Just saying. All right, so we are going to search. There's two fonts that I want you guys to actually add to this. So the first font that we're going to actually search for is Acumen. So that is spelled A-C-U-M. And you can see that once you actually start typing in that the search function in here is smart enough. It'll start going through, for instance, if I get rid of my M, it will give me the fonts that actually have an ACU in them. So it'll start narrowing stuff down for you right away. So you don't have to type in the entire thing. But Acumen is the one that I actually want you to pick. And when you do that, it is actually going to load all the possible Acumen fonts. Now, there are a lot of them. And in my case, there's 90 of them. You can see it sits right down here. This is something that's actually changed in, so for you guys who are in old Adobe, who are InDesign users, I think it was just one version ago that this screen looked very different than this, where you actually had sync fonts and you did that part. That's no longer the case the way they work it. They actually now have this thing up here where it says where you can activate fonts. If you start to scroll down, you'll see that there is an enormous number of Acumen fonts. So what these typically deal with, you can see some of their previews of these that sit right here. You can see that this is an Acumen Pro Thin, which is a very skinny, the actual lines that make up the font are very thin. As you start to get down to an extra light, it's a little bit heavier weight. Italics are obviously italics. Then you go down. There's other parts that exist in here. You have fonts that are condensed. So if you get down to here, condensed thin, it means the spacing between the letters, the kerning between the letters is actually being tighter and tighter and tighter. So there's a huge number of these. You can go in and cherry pick these things. You can click on only activating one if that's all you need. But if you want to activate all of them, you click on this little slider that's up at the top that says all fonts active. So I need you to go ahead and click on that. And it should activate and make all of those fonts available to you in your, actually in anything. If you have the right package, this font now will be available to you in Photoshop. It'll be available to you in InDesign. It'll be available to you in any other Adobe product that actually supports fonts. So does everybody have those guys active? Okay, so that's the first font I want you to do. There's another one that I want you to find right now, and it's called Calluna. C-A-L-L, and again, it should go through this whole part. Now, in our case, it drops down to giving me Calluna, Calluna Sans, and calling code. I don't care about calling code. The difference in Calluna and Calluna Sans, they are basically any of the notifications that give you a thing that says Sans. Sans has to do with serifing, and what serif means is if you look at this image like right down here, well here, let's go ahead and go to Calluna really quick and you can see what it looks like. So simply click on Calluna, not the Calluna Sans, but the regular Calluna part. And you can see here, if we look at this type right here, you see these little sort of, well if you look at this T right here, it's the little, there are two little edges that come off of that. There are two little, what the fuck do you call those things? Feet. They are serifs. That's what they are really called. The name of these, but I was trying to point out what these little thing is. So this little thing right here, that little drop down right there, that is actually a serif. So if we had picked Calluna Sans, Sans always stands for, it's French, stands for without. So without serifs would be this same type without those little things that drop down. Those little things that drop down, the serifs are actually, the reason they exist is they are an incredibly important aid in legibility. They make things easier to read. If you have ever picked up a book, you won't ever find one. You will never find a paperback that is written in sans serif fonts because nobody can read it. Well, you can, but it's agony. So at any rate, that's what this whole serifing thing is about. So with Acumen actually done, there's only one of them that I want you to activate. You can see that there's 8 of them. We only need one, and it's this regular font right here. So if you simply click on that one to activate, it'll only activate one, which keeps your font menu hopefully somewhat negotiable. So then back to InDesign, and as we get back to InDesign, all right, we need to go after the Living Well text part first. I know. So it's in the very top, it's on page 1. in the black column up here. Again, if you've got your regular cursor selected, double-clicking in here will give you the text cursor, and you can click and drag across that to select Living Well. Living Well is the best revenge. Then if you click on your drop-down menu, you could possibly have a font menu that's got thousands of fonts in it. To narrow that down, you can actually filter your font menu. So you'll see right here in my initial filter, I've got all classes. You can go in here and you can pick your sans serif fonts. You can pick, all of these are sort of like pre-filters for it. But the one that I want you to use is the one that's right next to it. It's the one that actually looks like this text box right here. When you click on that, the square that's got that TK in it, whatever, it will then filter for type kit. So these are the filters. These are the fonts that we've actually loaded from our type kit. Now, in your case, you should have the Acumen. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them, and one Kaluna. You also see that I've got some Robotos that are in mine. That's from actually a different time where I've loaded these.
Neither of the fonts showed up. They're not showing up because you have to sign into your Adobe account. So I'm signing into mine right now. Thank you, Adobe.
You know, after the 30th of November, this is only going to get worse.
Yep. Why?
Because they are eliminating all account, like right here at school here, we have one giant license that then it's like one number that's extended to all these computers. They want to eliminate that entirely so that everybody has to sign in with their license on. So you will, to use Photoshop, you will have to sign in with your license. So, okay. Well, in that case, if you can sign in and use these guys, great. If not, click on this again to clear the filter, and you guys can actually use anything that you want to do this. We can come down to, I think, yeah, Acumen is a serifed, sans serif font. So actually, you come down and you can use Arial because that's also a sans serif font. So if you click on your drop-down list, do you get Arial? What?
Like I signed in and it doesn't show up on me.
So wait, you're signed in, but you can't. So wait.
Like
Show me the
sign-
trick.
So
You
you have to sign in when you first go to Toolkit. And
Yeah.
you also need to sign in up here so that it syncs with the desktop apps.
Got it.
It's a pain in the ass.
It's Adobe, love you too.
So
Yeah.
actually, Parker, come here and show everybody on this computer.
And then it'll be
So
on
it's a
video.
part of the video and also on this screen.
He doesn't have one because it's not a school computer.
Yeah. There's usually a Creative Cloud shortcut.
Oh, I actually do have a Creative Cloud shortcut. I've just got too much up
Yeah.
here. So I'll go to Finder and
This one. Yeah, so
go for it.
when you open Toolkit, you have to sign in on the web, and then you also have to find the Creative Cloud shortcut on the Finder bar, and then sign in there as well, and then it'll sync.
So up here, you've got to sign in. For me, I'm actually already signed in, but it's this little drop-down, not that drop-down menu part right here.
Immediately when you drop down that menu, you'll have to sign in.
It's got to sign in on it. Okay. Does that make sense, everybody? So for you guys who don't have, who could not add those fonts, back in here, we're simply going to pick a different font. So if you come up to the top, I just don't want you to use Minion Pro because that's the one that's on by default. So click on this drop-down menu. You can actually type into this menu if you want a name. So we'll type, I'll just do mine with you guys, Arial. So A-R-I-A, and you'll actually get here already to the Arial group right here.
It says it's installing the update. I signed into the Creative Cloud and it says it's installing the update. What do I do?
Great.
I'm quitting.
If you can quit.
I quit.
Okay, good.
That's the only time that actually matters.
Yeah.
I'm quitting. Okay, I'm just using Arial.
Okay. So if you click on the drop down for Arial, you'll actually see that there's quite a few of them. They're actually sitting right in here. If you simply, I'm going to come down to Arial Regular. If you click on that, I know, it's my southern thing. If you click on the word Arial, it's actually in here. If you click on right underneath it, this drop-down menu, it will give you categories of these. So you can actually go to the italic groups, to the bold groups, to the bold italic groups. But in this case, I'm going to leave it strictly as it is right here. And it has actually now changed this font to be an Arial regular. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, so that's how you actually change the type of font that we want to do. However, we also are going to deal with font size and leading on this. So we can leave the font size right here. It's in point size right here. In our case, for this one that we've got selected right here, it is a 12-point font, and I'm going to go ahead and leave it that way. So if you click on this drop-down menu, you'll see that there's a preset of there's preset points. Point sizes are the size. They're actually the height of the font. So again, 6-point is much smaller. Well, you can see if you click on 8-point, it makes your type much smaller. If you click on it and you come back up to 12-point, most of you guys actually know this part, so font size is done in points. However, the thing that a lot of people don't know is the thing that's underneath it. The thing that's underneath it is actually called the leading. If you know anything about type in the old days, what they used to do when they actually set type was physically set into these sort of like racks that would like lock the type in. And what they would do is they actually had individual letters that they would fill in a line of text, and then they would take a strip of lead and they would put it in to separate one sort of like sentence or one set of text from the one that was underneath it. That's where the term leading comes from. So what this is it's not actually the height of the font, it's the height of the space that's between the lines of your font. So you can see right here, under Living is the Best Revenge, I've got a 14.4-point leading in there. If I click and I drop this down to a 24-point, you see how much more space it introduced between. It did not change the size of my font. It simply increased the space that was between both of those. But for the leading on this part, I want you can actually type this part in as well. I want you to just go ahead and put in a 14-point, not a 14.4, but a 14-point like that. Then again, if you hit the escape key, it'll well, that actually just left mine in. So 14-point for that guy. And then I'm going to simply click anywhere. I'm going to go back to my regular tool. And that actually is now. So this is now an Arial font that's a 12-point with a 14-point leading in here. So then I want to come down to the Carsons that's down at the bottom. Again, we're still on page 1. Double click inside there to get the text tool. Drag across the Carson part there. And then we are going to change this guy. Let's just pick a different version of this. So that Kaluna was a serifed font. So I'm going to click on my drop-down menu, and let's actually pick a serifed font, which would be something like, I don't want to pick Minion Pro again. You can see the samples over here, what are actually included, what would be serifed and non-serifed font. So let me scroll up to the top. What's the first one that you guys have that's actually on here? Do you have Avanar? Anyone? Yes? All right, so then simply pick this Avnir. It'll actually change that. You'll see it shows up in here. Again, you've got a drop-down menu right here. These are the different weights that exist for this. So you can see if you pick a light weight of this, it uses a very thin line to actually do the text. If you click on the drop-down menu and you come down to heavy, it actually makes that line. So it's the weight of the line that's actually used to do the font. I want you to go ahead and make this guy a lightweight as far as the weight of it goes. Lightweight. And then we need to change the point size of this. I'm going to simply type it in to a 22-point font. And then I want you to change the leading of this guy. We can leave the leading at, oh, actually, I'm take it back. Make the leading, you don't really need to worry about it because there's only one line of text. So I'm going to go ahead and put 14 point in again. You'll notice when you change point sizes that they automatically change the leading size. Those two are connected together. That doesn't mean you have to accept that, but that's basically what's going on here. While we are in here, I need to make sure that this guy, again, it was a black text. I want to change this to fine. I want to change this to white text again. So again, if you click on the text box flat-down menu to get to the text colors, we would click on paper, and that's what will actually give it to make it actually white. And then again, I simply click outside of this. I'm going to go back to my arrow tool and click outside of this to get the text box, and you should have a larger Carson that's actually sitting down at the bottom. Everybody good on this part? Okay, so then we need to go back up to the top part right here, this think beyond the bum part right here. Again, you can double click in the text box again to get the cursor, or you can simply click on the text cursor itself, and we can click and drag across this entire thing. I need to make that selected part right here, and then I'm going to go back and make this an Arial again. So click on my drop down menu, type in Arial.
So is this the same font as the cartoon? Or same font as Living Well?
It's this, yeah, the Living Well one. The Carson's one was, if you scroll up to the very top, it should be keeping track here at the very top of the fonts that you've already used. So if you scroll up to the very top of your font list, you should be able to find Arial there. Again, I'm going to do that as 12 point, but I'm going to change the leading now to a 15 to make it a little bit more space in between the two, in between all of the lines. Son of a bitch.
It's because you had the one parentheses mark on the one end, but not on the front end.
I really don't care. I really just wanted it to be 15. Or 14. Okay. No, I mean, we can spend hours doing this. I really don't want to do that with you guys. Okay, so we need to scroll down to the second page now. I take that back. We don't need to scroll to the second page. Oh, that is the part that I just did. Okay. Okay, and then finally, one last one. So we're going to click on the text that's inside the green box. We're going to drag across this guy, and we are going to make this, again, I want this to be a sans serif font. So in our case, we're going to go back to Arial again, but we're going to change its point size to 10 points. And the leading in here, we're going to make that 15 point again, if I can do it. Okay. Then we need to go down to the text that's on the bottom on page 2. And again, I'm going to click using the text tool, and I'm going to drag across this entire thing to select all of that text. And we are going to make this, in our drop-down menu, we will go ahead and make this. Again, I want this to be a serifed font because it's a lot of reading. So I'm going to go back to that Avnar and click on that. It will change it. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller though. I'm going to make it 9.5 points. Your point size can have decimals in it, so you can have a 9.5 point serif font, either any kind of font. And we're going to make this also, I'm going to leave this at that 14.4, but this actually, when I clicked out of that, it changed this again. The sort of automatic version of the letting for a 9.5 point, this particular font would be 11.4. So again, I'm going to select across all of this again, go back into that menu and say what?
You can do Command A for that.
Yeah, Command A to do a select all, and I'm going to again change this to 15 point because I want more space in there for that guy. So it blows it out a little bit more. So, and then again up to the menu, file menu, down to save and save our work. We're narrowing in, guys. We're getting sort of closer down there to the end here, so I promise we'll be hopefully get this finished. We're close. Okay, back up to the top, page 1. And we are going to so what I would like to do is I would like to actually get the text that's in this box right here to sort of like line up and be somehow close to this text box right here. But I've got a problem in this text box right here. And the problem with that text box is that I really need this Carson offices, this part, to actually be in the second column, to not be sitting here in the first column. So to fix that, I'm going to, again, select the selection tool, the black selection tool. I'm going to come over here and click on that text box to actually make it active. And then again, you can do several things. If you click on this to simply make it wider, you'll see that your type starts to rescale. It's actually rescaling though and bringing me back. It's bringing more type back to the beginning, which is not what I want to do. So instead, I'm going to leave that like that, and I'm going to click the bottom of the box instead and start to drag up to try to force the Carson's offices to actually be up at the top. So now I've got these actually separated pretty much the way I want them. The one last thing though that I don't have in here is that I don't like the fact that the Carson's is at the top is not even with this ready to transform your space. So to fix that, again, click on the text tool itself, click right next to that C for Carson's, and hit your delete key to remove that space. It's a space that exists to separate this from the bottom of the bycarson.com. So that's why that space actually exists in there. However, now what I said that I want to do is I want to align this text right here with the sample that's sitting right here before it. So to do that, again, I'm going to click on the black text, the black selection tool. I'm going to come back up to my rulers. I'm going to click and I'm going to draw down a guide. And the guide that I'm actually going to draw down again, I'm going to drop it right under this coming soon a line of text right here. However, you'll also notice that in this coming whatever, that there's this little plus symbol that's sitting right here. That little plus symbol is an indication that not all the text is actually showing in this box. So to make sure that it is all showing, if you simply, I'm going to come over here and click on this box to make it active. I'm going to click and drag down to make sure that I get all of the rest of the text. Now I can see where all the rest of the text actually is. Then I'm going to click on that guideline again and drop it down to the very bottom of the part that says brilliant right here. So it's running right along that line. And then I'm going to come back over to the ready to text box by Carson. I'm going to click on that whole text box and simply drag it down till I get the by Carson's is actually on that same grid line. And so now at the very least, the bottom of this text and the bottom of this text are both lined up. So it's just a way to actually start to play with the alignment part that we're actually dealing with as far as this whole part goes. Okay, let's go back down to page 2 again. You can actually add graphic elements to this that are not necessarily images and or text. So we're actually going to grab the line tool. So I'm going to click on the line tool right here. It's the one that's right under the text key. And I'm going to come over, and what I'm really going to just do is drag a line to go pretty much right across this area. It's going to go underneath the illustration, but on top of the text box right here. So I'm going to come over here to the beginning and simply click and start to drag out. And you'll notice when you drag out that you can actually angle these lines, which you're welcome to do. If you want to constrict this, though, to a perfectly horizontal version of this line, which is what I want to do, you hold down the Shift Shift key and it becomes perfectly horizontal. Then you can come all the way over and actually when you reach the other edge of this, you can actually let go. This is now actually a graphic line in here. However, it has no weight. So to change the weight of this, you'll notice that these boxes, the options up here, they keep changing every time we keep changing one of these tools. So for instance, when we had text selected, this was a text color line right here. In our case right now, though, this has changed because this is the line tool. To change the weight of the line tool, it's this drop-down box right here. This drop-down box, again, is going to do lines in terms of point sizes. So we can select, I'm going to do a 3-point just so that you guys can see it makes a considerably large line, a demonstrated line here. Instead, though, I don't really want this to be 3-point. I'm actually going to change this down to a 1/2 point, and you can see it's just a very small pencil line stroke that actually happens in here. So it's a way to think about using text lines, graphic elements that actually exist in this. We talked about this the last class we talked about using graphic elements to make your layout design here more compelling and more interesting. So, oh, this is a good one. Okay, so with that again, I'm going to click on my selection tool one last time. I'm going to come up to the File menu. I'm going to come down to Place one more time. I'm going to navigate again to our assets right here. And the final thing to do, I'm going to click on this chair number 6. And I'm going to open that guy up. And with chair number 6 actually opened up, we didn't have anything selected, and we haven't made anything. What I want you to do is I want you to come over here to the beginning area where it says, we're on that page 2, where the type is sitting down here at the bottom, and I want you to click and drag out a text of a frame. So we're now actually clicking and dragging with that image actually already in there. And you can actually see that once you actually click and drag this image in, that it lays it on top of our text, which is not what we want to do. We want our text to actually wrap around this guy. So to do that, it's these little icons that sit up right here. So look up at my screen really quick to see the one I'm talking about. These are how you can actually control text. So the first is no text wrap, which is what we've got going on right now. The next box over, if you see the little hover down, drop down readout, it says to wrap the text around the bounding box. We still have a bounding box that exists right here. So I'm going to click on that, and you can actually see now that the text has actually, would you call, when you have text that flows from one page to the next, that's a pagination. But what is it for column? A jump. You guys get where I'm going? So what it's done is it's pushed all the text further into the columns. And anyway, I was just curious if it actually had a name in here. Apparently it doesn't have a name in here. So finally, this part actually works out pretty well for me. However, if we click outside of this to go ahead and I'm again clicking on this to get out of this text box. Oh, and click out of it. You'll see you've still got this bounding box, but you see it's way too tight. The text is actually way too tight. It's really too close to the chair again. So to fix that, select the chair selection bounding box again, and then simply grab this little white handle that's in the middle part right here and goose it out slightly, and it'll actually push that away. So this is another thing I never understood about InDesign. Why is it you always have to drag and then let go before it redraws what it's going to look like? Wouldn't it be better if it's so if am I dragging out here like this, wouldn't it be better if I actually saw all the text move right now instead of having to let go and then see it? Anyway, note to Adobe.
When I did that, all it did was stretch the picture of the chair. Oh, because you were probably clicked on the orange part where you're stretching.
Did you click this orange guy up here or the white one in the middle? Hit Command Z first.
Yeah, I did that.
Yeah, so it's just that guy right there, click and drag that
Oh,
way
right
just
in
a
the
little
middle.
bit. Yeah, and let go. You have to let go to actually see it.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're just trying to put a little space so that the text looks like it's actually flowing around this guy a little bit. Son of a... Yes, son of a biscuit. Okay, so one last thing that we've got to talk about that I want to talk about while we're in this part down here, we're actually going, again, select the regular selection tool. I'm going to come and select the text box itself. What we've got right here is you can see that here I've got a paragraph that starts right here that really should be connected to this one right here. They call these things widows. They happen in words as well. This is another widow right here. Basically, it's this thing that sort of hangs at the end. But at any rate, you don't want paragraphs to be like that. So to fix the paragraph part, we can afford to make the box actually smaller to try to drive more text towards the end, but also to connect these paragraphs together. So that's what I'm going to try to do. I'm going to simply drag this guy up and let go. And you can see that I actually got that one. I got that one. I went too far because this pair has actually been shoved over. So I'm going to click and drag back down slightly to see if I can get the pair back with it without dragging anything else with it. And I end up, so again, really frustrating part. I'm dragging too far, so I'm getting this one back, but not far enough to get rid of that one. So, boom. There we go. Oh, I got the pair back here again. Part of this may be coming because of this is what this has actually been formatted in. So yeah, I can keep working with this forever. Good chance. So for me in my Photoshop world, because I keep just going back and forth between these two, what I would ultimately do is to actually get rid of that part, and then I would find something in here, a word that I can rephrase to get this pair to rejoin this. So is there a word that I can take out is basically what I would be looking for. Does that sort of make sense?
Yeah, or you could just tap down if you go back to how you had it before.
Or you can pull from the top.
Click which
Pull from the top.
tab and inspire.
Mm-hmm.
And just tap down.
Not pull up, but push down. Like, yeah. And then a little bit more. And try to push.
Yeah, it's going to push everything back over there though. So yeah.
It's
Anyway.
just playing.
We're just going on here, and again, we got too much other stuff that I want to get to. So, clearly you could spend time on this. You could change the font size. I mean, if we double click on this and look at the font, I think this was a 9.5 pointer. Yeah, it's a 9.5 point. I could change it to 9.75. I could change some number, whatever, to get this to flow better, to actually be more visually appealing to me. Does that sort of make sense to everybody? All right. So that is going to be the final part that we do to this. Everybody save this work. So up to the File menu, come down to Save. We'll do this one last time. And then the final thing that we can actually do here, and we've actually got time to do it really quickly, is to export this. So to export this, because right now this is just an InDesign file. This is not a final usable piece. To actually export this, you come up to the File menu, down to Export. A dialog box will open up saying, what do you want to call this? I'm just going to call this brochure PDF, and I'm going to put this hopefully on my desktop as well. I'm going to go ahead and hit save. A next dialog box will actually open up. When this next dialog box opens up, this is how you configure the export that's actually done. If you click on this drop-down menu, you will see that there's a high print quality, and then there's a whole other series of these PDF things. If you are sending this out to a printer, you would want to call the printer, email the printer, whatever, find out which of these they want it to be exported in. Some actually prefer this. But for our purposes in this class, we can leave this as high quality print, and that part will actually be fine. However, there's things in here we do need to set that are different than just this setup right here, and it's this down here at the bottom. If, and John, this goes to your problem right here, what was happening to you. If you want this to come out as single pages on a PDF, you do not want facing pages, which is what we would want if we had built a book. You would simply click on pages here. That will kick out one page at a time in a PDF, so you'll have them stacked on top of each other. If you want spreads kicked out, pages that face one another, you actually have to click on spreads here. In our case, it doesn't matter because we've only got one page really that's existing in here. Again, this is now dealing with the physical piece of paper that we're actually dealing with. The rest of this you can actually leave it at its default. If you find that your images are being crushed too small, you would want to check compression right here. By default, your images are downsampled to 300 pixels by 450 pixels per inch. That is not big enough to actually do, well, I'll take that back. No, that's actually going to be big enough for any photographic image part that you actually might want to do. However, if you were doing a gigantic tabloid piece of something, you might be able to save space and downsample that even more to be actually a little bit more aggressive about this part. This is where you can get into where your marks and bleeds are. We haven't added any part to this, but that's what's going on in here. If you wanted to add a password to this, in security you could add a password on this. All of that's more advanced than we need to be, but in our case we are simply going to leave this again as high quality print. We would pick, again, depending on this, how it was for pages or spreads here. And then I'm going to go ahead and click on Oh, the last thing, you want to make sure that you have this View PDF after exporting is checked. Go ahead and click on Export. And what this will then do is it will actually build your brochure, and then it will open it up in either Adobe Reader or Acrobat Pro or whatever you've actually got. And you can now proof and check your actual guide that's actually happening here. So this PDF is different than the InDesign file itself. So if you go to look at where all of this lives, wherever you were saving this stuff, in my case, I'm looking at mine right here. I have got a brochure here that is a PDF, but that is different than the InDesign file that made it. The InDesign file is the design file, and the PDF is the part that actually got kicked out. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, the last thing that we need to know that I can explain to you in 5 minutes is this. If you look at this InDesign document again, what you are looking at here, these images that we've got here are proxies. These are not the real images. This is not the real image here. This is a very, 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 very small res version that refers to the full-blown JPEG image that I've actually got. Does that make sense to everybody? This is not the image file. And to show you the consequences of that, if you look at the bottom of your screen right down here, you'll see that it says that there are no errors in this guy right now. I want you to go to your Finder. You need to find where those assets are. In my case, my assets are actually on my desktop. I'm going to drag those assets into my Downloads folder. I'm going to move them. So I'm going to put it down here into my Downloads folder. And if you go back into your InDesign document now, what you will see at the bottom is we have 7 errors. And what's happened is, and you'll see every one of your images is tagged with a little question mark. As the illustrations are tagged with question marks as well. What happens with InDesign is this. It loads when we loaded those images, what it does is it loads a low-res proxy, but then it keeps track of where the high-res version is, so that when you go to export the PDF or to print this thing out, it then makes that connection to the big version of it, and the big version of it actually gets exported or printed. Does that make sense? But because we've now broken that link, we've actually moved it. It does it by location. So we need to reconnect that. So there's 2 ways of reconnecting it. Number one, if we went back in and grabbed the folder, the assets folder that we moved out of Downloads and put it back onto the desktop, or in my case, wherever you guys were keeping yours, that connection would be remade. If you simply click on, I'm going to scroll up to the top, I'm going to click on this question mark right here, and that's not going to help me at all. This is not typically how I do it. I thought that actually it might do it. So double clicking on the question mark right here, this is to flag that it's broken, right? Well, you can do it over here in the links issue over here. So that's just where I'm going to go because it's not wanting to. Got it. Okay, so you can do this one of 2 ways. I'm going to cancel out of this. With the regular selection tool selected, you can click on the little question mark right here, and it will open it up and it'll say, okay, this link has been broken, it's missing, we need to navigate to that. That's one way of doing it. I'm going to cancel out of this really quickly to show you the other way. The other way is to come over here into the sidebar on the right hand side and click on links, because that's what the problem is. And you can see right here that it gives you all the names of these. It actually names, it tags the images for you. It tells you what page your image is actually on, and it also gives you this question mark right here. So I'm going to click on the question mark right here. It opens up and it says you need to go find that image again. So it was the chair number 1 image. So again, I moved the assets into my downloads folder. So I'm clicking on downloads. I'm then clicking on my make brochure assets. I'm opening it up and I'm finding chair number 1 again, and I'm double clicking on that. And when you do that, it will, if it's smart, what it knows is as long as you haven't really mixed your assets up, it says that the selected relink was found and they relinked the 6 missing links, and you can say okay again, and you don't have any errors anymore. All your stuff has been reconnected. Does that make sense, everybody? Are we good on this? Are there questions about this? So we managed to get through it all. Sorry, that is nowhere near as comfortable and familiar to me, obviously, as working in Photoshop, but we're through it. So if I don't see you guys next week, I won't be surprised. Have a great holiday, a safe holiday. Come back in one piece. Are there, like I say, one last thing, any questions about any of this part we've gone through? Are we good? Oh, one last thing I do want to show you, because I've got 2 minutes to do this. Get rid of this document really quick. You don't need to save it. It's not part of your homework. We're going to go back into InDesign again really quickly. I need to show you how to set up a book really fast, a regular book. Up to the File menu, down to New, down to Document. A screen will open up again, creating the new document screen right here. Again, I'm going to make my book, I'm just going to make it an 8x8, so we'll make a square book. So I'm going to change this 8 inches to 8, hit the Tab key and go to 8 inches again for this next one right down here. I'm going to click, it doesn't really matter whether you do landscape or portrait mode right now because it's a square book. I'm going to change the number of pages to 6. But I am going to make this facing pages. That's where this whole thing is going to start. I am going to change my columns down to 1 single column on this, and I think I can leave the rest of this just as it is. And I'm going to go ahead and hit Create. When you hit Create, you will actually see, I'm going to close up my links page right here, that you've actually got a single image that's sitting right here. If you scroll down, though, you will actually see this is your first spread. So this is treating it the way you would a true book. And in a true book, your first page would, in most cases, be the cover. Then you would open up to a spread. So this first thing up here is page 1 or the cover. Then you go to your spread, which is 2, 3. To make navigation a little bit easier, click on your pages palette that's sitting over on the right hand side. It will fly out and it will show you your layout right here. This is page number 1 right here. This is spread 2, 3 as you scroll down. This is 4, 5, and this is 6. If you want to very quickly get to your final page of your 6-pager, you can double click on this and go down to page. Now, in printing, you have to have an even number of pages. In electronic, you don't. So if for some reason you're only going to be publishing electronically, you could do this with an odd number of pages. You wouldn't have to set up an even number. It would still start with a single 1, spread 2, 3, and spread 4, 5, and 6 would simply be missing. Max?
Also with the cover page, just remember that the back of your cover page will have the image for this second, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So a lot of the times, just, like, it's common to leave that front one just blank.
Yes.
It's like
And then 3 might be a title page.
and then or a title page or whatever, and then just make a separate document
For the cover. Makes sense. Did that make sense to you guys?
because otherwise you're printing on the inside of the cover page.
Right. But you could also conceivably keep this as your cover, leave 2 and 3 blank, and then start your book on page 4 or start it on the inside on page 5, whatever. But yeah, no, it's an important thing to know. Okay, good. I'll see you guys next week. No, in 2 weeks.
So we don't have to print this, right?
Eventually, so yeah, that's a great question. How this is what ultimately this is going to happen. This is going to go. It's going to be published in issue or on issue. So does anybody in this room not know Issue? Okay, so Issue is an online repository for PDF books, and it's free. And it's a great thing because it's a resource that you guys can not only post sort of things like this to, but my suggestion is that you put your portfolio up there because everybody has access to it. It's free. You can change it. You can add to it. You can make it. It's a really good resource size. So we'll get to that once we actually do the layout part of it. So for next week, if you do make it here, we will be working just on this stuff in class. We will be going over the exam part. For those of you who are not, look at the assignment part. But I think the next phase of this is for you to actually build your layout, and then the publishing part comes the week after.
Okay.
So we'll learn PPC or something.
So what I need you to do is get through, you don't even have to do the export, but you need to get your InDesign document finished so that we can come to class, we'll do the export, and then we'll feed that up to Issue and everybody. That's where I prefer to actually do the critique part, is on Issue, because it really gives you, it's like an e-magazine. It simulates the book experience. All right, have a good holiday.